Okay, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to give what I think are the 4 best tips to pass the RBT exam. This is based on the many years I've been doing this. In addition, I'm going to go through some practice questions. So best of both worlds. If you like the videos, like, subscribe. It really helps. Check out my other videos on the channel. And let's get into it. So my first tip and my number one is learn your terms and learn your definitions, okay? If you don't do anything else, if you don't do practice questions, all right, if you don't study in any other way, you need to know your terms and definitions, all right? Use SAFMEDs, use flashcards, okay, use a study guide. You want to be fluent in your terms and definitions. If I say frequency, you should immediately know that's count. If I say duration, you should immediately know you're measuring length of time, okay? The exam becomes 100 times easier if you know definitions. And you can ask almost anyone who's passed the exam, okay? It's just an easier test if you know the definitions, okay? Let's look at a practice question example to show you why. So in this example, okay, Tom wants to teach his client to write an email step by step. What is the first thing Tom should do? So if you know your terms and you know your definitions, all right, you should immediately be able to eliminate 2 of these answer choices, okay? Prompt is immediately out, all right, because you know a prompt is not the first thing you would do in this situation, okay? Because you know a prompt is just trying to evoke a response, but you're trying to teach something step by step, okay? So you know prompt is out, and you know reinforce is out, because we're not talking about increasing a behavior. So if you know your terms and definitions, you're already down to just A and B, right? And then again, if you know what a task analysis and a task chain is, you know an analysis comes before a chain. And before you can teach the task chain, what do you have to do? You have to break down the chain step by step. And how do you do that? With the task analysis, okay? So if you know your terms and definitions, it's a very easy question. You immediately eliminate 2 answer choices, okay? The other 2 are related, and you know which one comes first because you studied, and it becomes an easy question, okay? Know your terms, know your definitions. The test just becomes so much easier, okay, when you're fluent, right? That's the key, fluent in your definitions. Number 2, do practice questions, okay? Practice exams, videos, you want to practice applying your terms and definitions. So in ABA, right, we teach, okay, we teach our clients, right? But if we can't do it in real life situations, okay, we haven't generalized, right? Then we failed, okay? Same thing. If you are learning your terms and definitions, but you can't take it and apply to real life questions, right? Then how will you pass the exam? So you have to practice, okay, like you're taking the real thing. Do it under pressure. Don't cheat, okay? Actually try to answer the questions and try to figure out the questions, okay? Because the questions are kind of tricky on the exam, and they're going to do things and use wording that's going to make you a little confused. And a lot of the questions are applied, okay? When people fail the exam, the biggest thing they say is, well, all the questions were applying the terms, right? So they're not going to ask you 85 definitions. They want you to apply the terms, okay? And if you've done a bunch of practice questions and you've practiced applying and you've practiced answering the questions, okay, you're going to be a lot more prepared, right? The more you see questions, okay, it becomes pattern recognition, the more familiar you become with how the exam works, right? You're just trying to beat the exam, okay? The more practice questions you do, the more prepared you are to beat the exam. So let's look at an example. Brenda has an eating disorder. We want to reduce the time in between meals. What would be the best measurement to use? So this is a good example of, I know my terms, I know my definitions, okay? They're just asking me in a different way, okay? So what are we measuring? We're measuring time in between meals. So we know, okay, from our definitions, that's right, 2 different responses. So let's look. Duration, okay, that is a time measurement, right? But that's measuring one behavior. What are we measuring here? We're measuring time in between 2 behaviors, okay? So we know duration is out. IRT, inter response time. time in between two responses, time in between meals, IRT. Okay. So the answer is B. And if you are familiar with the questions, you'll see that even though they didn't ask exactly the definition, what do? They said the time in between. Okay. What is IRT? The time in between. Okay. So essentially, they did ask you, right, the question and the definition. They just threw it into an applied setting. Okay. And this is where practicing the questions comes in. Okay. Because you're going to see all the other words, but you're going to read, we want to reduce time in between meals and immediately think, oh, I know that, right? That's time in between behaviors. It has to be IRT. Okay. So do your questions, practice, practice, practice. And this can be stressful, right? Because when you're practicing questions, you might be getting some wrong, okay? And that might lead to anxiety and doubt. Don't doubt yourself, right? You only learn through failure, okay? The more you fail, the more you can improve, okay? Do your questions. Number 3, apply ABA to real life, okay? After all, what are we going to be doing? What are you going to be doing as an RBT? You're going to be looking at real life situations with real life clients, and you need to apply what you know to your clients. So start with yourself. When you're driving in your car, when you're at home, when you're at the store, start thinking of what's reinforcing you, what's punishing you. Okay. How can you measure, right? I'm cooking eggs. I want to know how long it takes. I'm going to use duration, right? I want to know how many times I check my phone in the day. I'll use frequency, right? Why do I answer the phone, okay, when my mom calls? Because it's reinforcing, right? The phone is the SD, okay, for reinforcement, right? Apply it to real life, okay? The more you get comfortable applying these things to real situations, the easier the questions become because the questions are just ABA in real life situations. Let's look at an example. You try and start your laptop. Nothing happens. You wait 2 seconds and try again. You try again, but this time you're cursing and smashing the on button. What is likely happening? So we've probably all been here, right? You're used to hitting the on button on your laptop or opening your laptop and it turns on. This time it doesn't, okay? And we get really aggravated. We get really frustrated, okay? We start pounding the on button. We're cursing. We're trying everything and trying harder to get this thing to turn on. Now, what is likely happening here? Okay. So think about it. What normally happens? Open your laptop, right? It turns on, you receive reinforcement. What happened this time? No reinforcement, right? So extinction is definitely happening. What is the second part though? Your behavior is increasing, the frequent or the intensity is increasing. What does that mean, right? Is it punishment? No, you're not being punished, right? We're not talking about anything being reduced. Reinforcement? No, we're not talking about any behavior being increased, right? So that can't be it. Extinction burst. This is it, right? Reinforcement was cut off, right? From a previously reinforced behavior. Now your behavior is increasing in intensity, right? You're getting upset, right? You're trying harder, harder, harder. You're going through an extinction burst, okay? If you start applying ABA to real life situations, this is a situation that could actually happen, okay, in your life, and then you just apply it on the ABA exam, okay? That's why it's so important to think about this stuff throughout your day. And once you get doing that, okay, this stuff becomes very natural, all right? Last one, don't overthink ethics. People get terrified about ethics questions. How do I answer them? What do I do? They're so vague, they're so broad. Use common sense, okay? First things first, use common sense, right? Second thing, rely on your supervisor. They're going to ask you many, many questions. Okay, well, maybe not many, but they'll ask you questions about what should you do in this situation. When in doubt, go to your supervisor. Okay, and then finally, if you're really confused, go with the strongest answer. Right. So they're looking for you to be ethical, overly ethical. Right. They want you to be ethical in every scenario. Okay. So number one, common sense. Number two, if when in doubt, rely on your supervisor. Number three, if you really don't know, go with the strongest answer. Okay, let's look at an example. Tim, an RBT, was assigned a case at an elementary school due to his teaching experience and ability to handle aggressive behavior. Tim notices his client is not eating at lunch. What is the best course of action for Tim? Okay, ethics question right here, right? So we're not asking about measurement. We're not asking about any of that, right? This is an ethics question. Tim is an experienced teacher, knows aggressive behavior, and notices a new behavior. So put yourself in that situation. You notice a new behavior. What should you do? Should you develop a treatment plan? No. What is your goal? What is your role? Your role is implement the treatment plan. Okay. You might assist in the treatment plan, but you won't develop one. A is out. B, ask the BCBA or supervisor to observe the client at lunch. I love these answers, right? Because you're asking your BCBA or supervisor for help. Okay. And they really want to stress to you, the test does, the importance of that relationship. So when in doubt, I would go with B, right? Ask my supervisor. Okay. Anything happens, go to my supervisor. That should be your gut instinct, right? C, read research articles on eating problems. I mean, you can, right? But is that the best course of action? Okay, how is that really going to help you? Because you're not going to develop anything by yourself, right? You shouldn't go in and start trying to modify this behavior without first doing what? Asking your BCBA. Okay, so you can read articles, which is great. You should, but that's not the best course. D, do nothing. Do nothing is rarely the correct response. Okay, so if you see do nothing, typically that's not going to be the right answer. So in this case, right, the right answer is going to your BCBA, going to your supervisor, asking for help, okay, referring to them. Okay, so those are my tips. I think if you do those things, okay, you're going to have a really, really good chance of passing the exam. All right, so thanks for your support. Like, subscribe. All our study materials are going to be below. Okay, more videos coming next week, and study hard.